Well, good morning. It's time for another one of our daily devotions, this time from Psalm number 13. This one, like the one we covered earlier this week, is written by David as well. This one, like the one we read earlier this week, is a word of encouragement from somebody going through something horrible. We don't know the circumstances exactly of this psalm. It'd be nice to know what David is thinking, what David is encountering. But this is in particular a lament. Think of the book of Lamentations. It's a heartfelt cry out to the Lord. Why? While it's not clear what the particular circumstance is here, we know David faced many, from the hatred of King Saul, from the rebellion of his son, from the murder of another son, from the rape of another daughter. All kinds of issues confronted David. Many times David wondered, Lord, where are you? Many times you've wondered the same things. Throughout these last several weeks, many people have wondered, Lord, where are you? Why me? How much longer? And if it's not related to COVID-19, maybe it's related to your health. Maybe it's related to something else going on in your life. God knows. But sometimes, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not convinced he does. This morning, Psalm number 13 might bring comfort to your heart as we read through it. So read with me, if you will, Psalm number 13. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemies say I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice that I am shaken. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. See, David knows what you're feeling. David has been there and done that. Maybe not the same exact circumstance, but David understood the challenges of maintaining our faith, keeping our hopes up, keeping our courage, keeping a stiff upper lip, as our British friends would say, in the face of seemingly one onslaught after another, one challenge, one confrontation following the other, beating us down, leaving us wondering, how long? You notice there in verses 1 and 2, David asks, how long 4 times? How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long, O Lord, will you hide your face from me? How long must I take comfort or counsel in my own soul and sorrow in my heart? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? It's natural. It's human. When life is not going as we expected, when life is difficult, we want to know how long. If we knew how long, we can get through anything. When I was in the Army, that's one of the lessons I've learned. If I know the helicopter is coming at the end of the day, I can put up with everything in between now and when the chopper arrives. If I know that we're marching for 50 miles, I know that I can go for 20 more or 10 more or 5 more or whatever the case might be. Some of us, we struggle with that unknown factor of how long. There's nothing wrong with being honest with God this morning and crying out, Lord, how long? David did, and it's in the Bible. David even goes on and beseeches God in verse 3. Consider and answer me, he says. But what's the specific prayer request? Notice what he says. Lift up my eyes, or light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Light up my eyes, bring hope and joy, life to me again. Lest, first, I sleep the sleep of death. Lest, second, my enemies say they've prevailed over me. Lest, third, my foes rejoice because I'm shaken. Lord, give us hope. Lord, give us life. Lord, give us something to look forward to. He's in the midst. He wants to know how long. He's begging that God will give him what he needs to sustain him and carry him through. But notice, there's nothing in this particular psalm that says that God gave it to him. We don't know when the psalm was written. We don't know how long it will be until God answers his particular request. None of that is there. All we've got is David's heartfelt cry. We've got David's sincere prayer request. And then we've got David's response. But he begins in verse 5. I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Notice, no answer to prayer yet. No specific timeline. No answer from God. It's going to be 2 more years or 2 more days or 2 more months. None of that. But notice David's response. He says, but I've trusted in your steadfast love. What God has done in the past, he knows that God will do today. God's love is steadfast. It's ongoing. It's continuous. Not only does he trust in his steadfast love, he says, my heart it will continue. Out of response to what I know, my heart shall rejoice in your salvation. See, so often we focus on the negative. We focus on the circumstance. You can't control your circumstances. All you can do is control your response. So David says, my heart is going to rejoice in your salvation. He's trusted God in the past. He'll trust God today into the future. He's going to rejoice in his salvation regardless of the situation. And then notice how it plays out in verse 6. He says, I will sing to the Lord. I'm going to worship God. I'm going to glorify him. Whether you eat or whether you drink, whether you suffer, whether you celebrate, whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God. I will sing to the Lord. Why? The answer, the hope, the message, the reminder for all of us this morning, there in verse 6, because he has dealt bountifully with me. See, so often we focus on the majors or the minors and ignore the majors. So often we focus on the bad that's right in front of us and we forget the good that's behind us. Sometimes we're so focused on the tree that we can't see the forest. Sometimes we're so hung up in our current problems that we fail to remember that God is loving, that God's love is steadfast, that God has blessed us in the past, that God has promised us he'll bless us in the future. Notice David's response. No answer from God, no promise that this will end. There's no promise that David's getting out alive. And yet what's he going to do? He's going to sing to the Lord because God has, in spite of the appearances, God has dealt bountifully with him. This morning I encourage you, don't get beat down. Don't let your situation and your circumstances steal your joy, right? Paul writes, count it all joy. And he writes from a prison cell. David confronted all the problems and challenges we know that he experienced in his life. And yet he says, God has dealt bountifully with me. God has given us far beyond what we can imagine, far beyond what we deserve. Let's not forget that as we confront our challenges, our problems today. Let's remember God, his goodness, and let's lean on him and let's give him all the glory no matter what situations come.